Hey, this is Crystal Ramirez from Little Bird Sound Healing. I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you found this video, and I hope you enjoy the demonstrations today. And before I get into these demonstrations, I want to take a little bit of time to just introduce myself to you, and tell you a little bit about my journey into sound healing, and then we'll get into the demos. So, a little bit about me. Let's see. I was born in California. I was lived there till I was about 12. And then after our time in California, we moved out to this little town called St. George. It's over in Utah. And I lived in St. George from like the ages of like 12 to 22. It was a really beautiful time of my life. There's so many gorgeous things out in the desert to get into, and I really enjoyed like just getting out into nature and getting to know people. And it was like one of the friendliest cities I've ever lived in, and it's just a gorgeous place to visit. And I ended up wanting to get out and explore the world. And we don't really have like a lot of money in our family structure, so I joined the military to kind of follow my grandfather's footsteps, my dad's footsteps. Like I come from a lineage of military service members. And something, just a little side note here, is I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I deployed to Iraq 3 times, 2004, 2006, and 2008. I worked in logistics, and I was also in the airborne. And during my missions in Iraq, I could have, they ranged between like logistical convoys to security escorts for local nationals. And it was just a really hard time in my life. I experienced a lot of PTSD from those deployments and witnessed quite a few different types of things happen from that. And the funny side note is like my grandpa, he was a World War II veteran. And every time I would call my grandpa, it was pretty funny. I'd be like, "Hey, grandpa, how are you? How are you doing?" Those kind of things. And sometimes we get on the topics of like our military service, like pictures. And he would say, "Oh, I have your Class A photos like right next to mine, but I don't know what I did with your dad's. I can't find them." And it was just a little joke he had because my dad was Air Force and me and him are both in the Army. So, yeah, so it's like really cool, interesting, like dynamic between the three of us. I'm just really appreciative for having both of those guys in my life. They're both passed out now. That's really hard to say. So, yeah, so like with PTSD, sound healing is a miraculous tool for that. And I think I just had like as Bob Ross would say, a happy accident. But as other people would say, there are no such things as accidents, right? So which one is it? I don't know. So this is let's just fast forward a little bit. So now I've graduated college. I studied business administration, and then I actually got into something that I didn't even study, which was into technologies, IT technologies, because I took some coding boot camps, and I really was interested in software development and how to like connect all of those tools together. And it's still something that fascinates me today. And I've slowly kept moving into just all these different roles, and I got into site reliability engineering. It was like my first tech job. It was at IBM, and I did that for about a year and a half, and then I got laid off during the pandemic. And during my time of being laid off, is when I encountered the Native American style flutes, and I just immediately had a connection with these instruments. They're just so peaceful, so reassuring, like just warmed my heart up in so many different ways. And like and it was during the pandemic, so I was like, it's such a dire time, right? Like there was just such an immense amount of things happening around us in the world, and there still is. It's like, so like it kind of just like was the instrument I needed to have in my life. And so I would take it on hikes with me, on journeys with me. I would take it everywhere with me. And to this day, you cannot find me without some kind of musical instrument attached to my hip, whether I'm wearing it as an ocarina or I have like a travel flute or something like that. It's because it's so comforting. And if you are someone who suffers from PTSD, or especially complex PTSD like I have, then you'll know like how it is. Like it's just, there's so many bombarding thoughts in your mind There's just all these different types of things we have to navigate through and carry that most people they don't even know, like they don't even know what you're going through, like, because no, how could they, like, so like you know, like on the outside I look like I'm just having like a normal facial expression, but on the inside I'm like checking my corners, I'm checking to see what that creepy guy across the street is doing, I'm looking at potholes in the ground, I'm like scanning my area. I'm like a little skittish cat who just tried to figure out where the safe spot is, you know. And when I have these healing instruments in my hand, I can just play a song, and it takes all of those worries and calms them down and brings it into like a place where I can feel like I'm having a singular thought again, like singularity versus like 5 to 10 different thoughts all trying to run at the same time in my brain. So, in saying all that, like now that we kind of segued into the sound healing world, and how we can work with instruments to help with reducing anxiety and reducing, you know, these PTSD responses. I do want to give you a disclosure here. I am not someone who studies these things. I am pretty much just as qualified as your next door neighbor to talk about PTSD. That is like definitely not my strong suit, but I can talk to you from a perspective of like someone who experiences it. I can talk to you from it from like a sound healing perspective and like how I go about it. But like, just to like give a quick disclaimer, like if you were working with me at any time we encounter each other, I can work with you as a peer. I can work with you as a spiritual advisor, but I think I work best as a supplement in your regiment of your health, your mental health care. So like if you are seeing me as a client, I would highly suggest that you're working with a therapist as well, to kind of help you explore and dive into some of the things that you may have discovered in one of my sessions. I might not be the best qualified person to tell you like why the PTSD has like quieted down, but I could tell you, yeah, it's going to help you. You know, yeah, it's definitely going to help. So I don't do the talk therapy; I do the music side of things. So yeah. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started talking about sound healing and tuning forks more specifically. Hey guys, so let's go ahead and get into tuning forks. Like something that's really interesting about tuning forks is case like we're using this concept, this scientific concept known as entrainment. One of the best ways I have been able to describe entrainment is if you think about it like this, like if you entered into a room and everybody was having an argument, and then all of a sudden you stepped into that room and you were to just be an observer, you would probably start to feel the tension in the room. There would be something inside of you that would probably get triggered, and you'd be like, man, what is going on? Or another example would be if somebody walked into a room and they're super happy and glowing, we typically will refer to them as the light in the room. So what's happening here? Their energy, their energetic expressions are causing an unseen like wavelength of frequencies and sounds that we're naturally tuning into, and we are using a concept of like, you know, it's described as empathy, you know, like that sort of thing, where we start to have empathy and feel that person's emotions, and our brain waves are temporarily aligned to this particular situation. Even though we ourselves might not be experiencing that person's joy, we're able to mimic it. It's just like if you tell someone, if you want to see happy people, just smile at people and they'll smile back at you, right? So if you want to see calm people, just be calm and they'll reflect it. It's the same kind of concept. So like with tuning forks, we are listening to like these frequencies that are pitch perfect and are basically emitting tunes that our minds can sync up to. So like for an example is like if you wanted to play the sound of balance to someone, You would use the notes C and G because they are a perfect fifth apart and they are balanced, and they will bring a sense of feeling balanced to the listener through the stimulation of the vagus nerve. So something that I really like about some current experiments or that have been going on is there's one by Dr. Ginny, and it's related to cymatics. And in this situation, they're putting substances such as sand and fluid and powder on top of a metal plate. And then the metal plate is attached to like an oscillator, which is a device that produces vibrations. The oscillator is controlled by a set of frequencies that are generated, and this causes the oscillator to vibrate the substances on the plate at different frequencies. Now, like, what is interesting from these experiments is like these frequencies will form into like these beautiful imageries that I don't think one would expect to happen. So like you're able to basically send an image. Now we have a visual representation of the sounds that we're hearing through vibration. So if you think about it, right, when we have these plates that are vibrating and creating this imagery of the vibrations, those plates are essentially able to represent thousands of different frequencies at one time. Now, if you think about it in a different perspective, just for a moment, if all those vibrations created this beautiful imagery of like perfect symmetrical, like types of designs, and I'll show you in a minute on the slides what I'm talking about for the imagery. If those plates are vibrating at that frequency and showing this imagery for those vibrational levels, imagine what your bones are feeling when you're sending those vibrations through your body. Your bones and your blood and all of the different cellular activities happening within you are able to experience such a beautiful sensation all at once. So we're getting a two for like what I really like about these experiments is it's giving us that visual confirmation. I think as humans, it's just a lot easier to believe in something when we can see it with our own eyes. Even though we have like a conscious awareness that we're not really able to see everything around us, that our eyes are pretty limited on what they can see. It's still it gives me like that extra sense of like security, like, oh, okay, this isn't all just something I made up in my head. Like this is real. Like this is happening. This is totally a thing that's tangible that we can now like visually see in addition to hearing and feeling. It just brings another level of comfort for the type of work I do. So in my practice at Little Bird Sound Healing, the major concepts that I'm following when it comes to working with somebody when it comes with tuning forks is I'm following the concepts and ideas and research that was done by Dr. John Bewley. And just a little bit about Dr. John Bewley, if you're not familiar, he is one of the foremost philosophers and major innovators in the sound healing therapies. He's the owner of Biosonics, and he had basically done a whole entire study of the human tuning system and the sounds and that we make through the frequencies that our bodies make in regards to the human tuning system. So before I go any further in that, I'll just take a pause to kind of rewind just a little bit. So like when we're talking about the human tuning system, like what am I saying? So like when you think about it in a different way, um, like if we saw somebody and their shoulders were like really like uptight and maybe their facial expressions were tight, we'd probably say like that person is high strung. And that is a visual representation of the sounds that they're making, which would be like there's something in their tuning system, there's something in their nervous system that is out of tune. So we can take these studies from Dr. John Booley, and if I say that last name incorrectly, please just know I'm trying my best. It's really, I don't know why it just doesn't stick in my head. I guess it's just not a name I often hear, and I don't mean to say it and massacre it, but I'll do my best. So yeah, so like when we listen to this person's nervous system, we can essentially think of it like this: like if we were listening to an orchestra and there was a violin that was high strung and out of tune and was sharp, we would naturally just adjust the strings to bring them back into the correct state of tension that is they're meant to be in. So when someone is having a human expression of being high strung, we can take our tuning forks that have the frequencies that are tuned into the frequencies of the human nervous system and apply those to the vagus nerve. And through a series of protocols, we can literally tune that person's energy back into a state of harmony that would bring them out of that high strung state. And when you're out of that high strung state, naturally you're going to have healing that takes place due to the fact that if you kind of look into like the human fight or flight system and all these other studies that are done, when we are outside of that system and we are just in a natural state, in a neutral state, or in a state of zero, then our bodies can just start to naturally heal themselves. And so this is just like some amazing work that was done through his studies, and I'm glad to share any resources into you. Just send me a message, and I'll send you the books I'm reading and the theories I'm following when it comes to working with the human nervous system. So the next thing I want to show you is just some examples of the types of sounds you might hear during a one-on-one session. Before I get into those examples, I just want to kind of recap a little bit of what we talked about. So we've been talking about like the human nervous system and frequencies and visual representations and vibrations and all those really great things. And I'm just going to dial it down to like its simplest form now, which is in my practice, we use Himalayan singing bowls to bring the vibrotherapy or the vibrational part of the energy into your body. So that's how I would basically place like singing bowls on the body that vibrate at healing frequencies that would essentially go into your body at a cellular level, and then at an energetic level, we're going to use tuning forks to stimulate the vagus nerve. And between those two combinations, it really does just bring you down into a very relaxed state of being and almost into like a trance-like state where you can start to set your own intentions and manifest the way you actually want to operate on this planet, instead of feeling like you're just being a puppet and you're played by your emotions all day long. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into some examples. So in this next example, I'm going to play for you what is known as the perfect fifth. It's the notes C and G. This interval is really ideal for the nervous system. The perfect fifth brings all parts of our self into a unified harmony. So we intuitively know we are in tune because we are 100% involved and simultaneously relaxed, and everything seems to go our way when we're in tune. So like, yeah. So I think I went off on a tangent there, and maybe overcomplicated what I was trying to say, which is basically I'm going to play the perfect fifth. And this is going to kind of just give you like this natural state of like, oh, that's what it feels like to be in tune. This is what my body feels like in tune. And yeah, so without further ado, let's take a look into what that sounds like. And one final thing, I'm also going to add something known as the grounding sound in here. And this is related to the Om. We're going to add that into the frequencies as well. So I'll play it shortly without Om, and then we'll bring Om into the sounds, and you'll kind of get a feel for how this works. I think I'm going to do this for at least a minute. So make sure you have a good set of headphones on for this part. It's a very relaxing sensation. And then once we get done listening to this sound, we can go and talk a little bit more about like the different protocols that we can use and how these would be applied and like what it would look like on a one-on-one session with me. All right. Okay. Thank you. Just one moment. Let me go ahead and get these things started. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to play for you the notes C and G in the frequencies of 256 and 384. This will create a sense of balance. As I play this sound, go ahead and do a mental check in with yourself and picture any tension you have in your body coming back into relaxation. So if your shoulders are tight or being held up kind of high or pinched, just allow them to sort of drop back down to their natural state, um, and so on and so forth. Just find any tension in your body and picture it coming into harmony with this frequency. The next sounds I'm going to play will have the notes C and G. I'm going to add in a third note with F to help with opening the heart chakra and bring you into a sort of triad effect. And in this last demo, I'm going to play C and G, and I'm also going to play the frequencies related to Om to bring us into grounding and harmonization. I really hope that you enjoyed that session, that demonstration of tuning fork protocols. They are really amazing and can address quite a few different areas. Some of the things that come to my mind from Dr. John Belui's work is he has protocols that address uh, nervous systems and like basically resetting them and getting you back to a general state of well-being. There's protocols for increasing creativity. There's protocols for grieving like silently, grieving with anger, and releasing those emotions and getting back into a sense of balance. You know, like, when we think about sound healing, it's not like you're going to have this amazing tuning fork session and your grieving's all gone easy peasy. It's more like you have the tuning session and now you are unblocked to process the grieving, or now you're unblocked so you can have the creative thoughts that you're needing. So it's from that frequency, it's from that way of thinking. Like, so when we think about sound healing in general, sound healing when it comes to tuning forks, it's about getting into an alignment so you can have the right mindset, so you can have the right focus to bring yourself to address your journey, to go through this journey. And if you hear a text message being in on this recording, I'm going to keep it in there because I've done a few different retakes on this, and I'm just going to allow right now, like, whatever distractions come into this recording to be used in a way that is just something that's not going to like take away from the quality. Like, we're human beings. We have phones. And I'm trying to personally in my own journey, like, just allow myself to have some ease and acceptance that not everything is going to always be perfect. I feel like we really get a lot of perfectionism jammed in our faces quite frequently. Okay, so there's more binging and binging going on my phone. We're just going to ignore that. So anyway, so like back to the protocols and the sessions here is we have like just these amazing opportunities to work with our energy, to work with each other, and to overcome like to just have that balance to get through something. And I just find like between like the practitioner and the person receiving the sound healing, it's an interesting dance of getting to know each other. And I have found that in my sessions, every time I'm able to help somebody and help someone with their energy, it is just an extremely rewarding process. And it not only helps heal them, it also brings a sense of healing to me. And what someone I go to for sound healing once told me that every time you heal someone, you're healing a part of yourself as well. And I really do believe that is to be true. So in saying all that, I've hoped you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope you have found it to be insightful and fun and interesting. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I am going to create a series on these talks. This is sort of just like a really general one that I've done. And I think we can probably even segue into other instruments that I use in a sound healing session. And I might create an additional part 2 for this session to give like a more in-depth experience for what a protocol might feel like from beginning to end. All right, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, my name is Crystal Ramirez with Little Bird Sound Healing. I really hope to hear from you, and please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. Have a great day.